To say that Motorola makes the best flip phone on the market wouldn't be that absurd of a statement right now. With a nearly full-sized external display and some playful materials and colorways, this clamshell phone has evolved a long way since its reimagining of the classic namesake in 2020. While I love a lot of things about the Ultra 2025, there are also some things that make me want to swap out back to a traditional candy bar phone. The big question is, however, if the biggest and baddest offering from Motorola really does warrant that $12.99 and 99 cents price tag. It's a hefty price tag. So, I'm Alex from Sypnotix. Let's talk about it right now. From a spec sheet standpoint, the Razr Ultra certainly lives up to its Ultra moniker. Motorola doesn't cut any corners with this top-end offering as it utilizes a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset to run Android 15 on here. That's the current top-of-the-line SoC offering that can't be bested right now, at least from a hardware perspective on Android. The base model, which I have here to review, starts at a whopping 16 gigabytes of RAM and gives users 512 gigabytes of storage. No micro SD card or headphone jack, but that attributes to an extremely uniformed frame layout that of course folds in half. More on that later, but the Razr Ultra certainly can hold its own in the Android app realm. I haven't seen any games or apps run into any difficulties blazing through their functionality during my nearly 3 months reviewing this phone now. While the apps open and run quickly, the phone does run hot with certain applications. It doesn't do a great job of cooling, but I don't surmise that was a big priority with Motorola, as this isn't a gaming phone, nor is it a phone I foresee many people using for photo taking as its primary function. Still, I do find the Razr Ultra to be satisfying to use as a main daily driving phone, and it should hold over its flagship level performance for at least a couple of years. While the performance of the phone is high end, it isn't necessarily top end, as the Android competitors also utilize the same flagship chipset. What potentially sets this Motorola apart is how it uses its flexing body in unison with that powerful SoC. For example, streaming a live YouTube broadcast on the top half of the screen while the bottom half displays that fast-moving chat. Since the Ultra can be propped up at about a 75-degree angle from the weight on the bottom half of the phone, this does open up a few interesting app scenario possibilities. You have a specialized split screen mechanic here that is unlike anything a folding phone or a regular slap phone can produce right now. So there is some unique functions you can only do with a flip phone. I find the hinge on the Ultra to be quite solid. It's smooth to open and satisfying enough to close. Another quirky way to utilize the Ultra's flipping frame is to grip it like a camcorder. With the phone flipped to a 90-degree angle, the camera app will automatically begin recording a video when held in that position. It's a neat party trick that doesn't really add much in the form of functionality, but it is fun to just snap the phone shut to end the recording. It is something different. Speaking of recording though, the Razr Ultra has a couple of cameras to talk about. They're unique in the sense that they're multi-purpose and somewhat flexible in use cases. The main camera module consists of dual 50 megapixel sensors. One is a wide f1.8 and the other is a f2.0 ultra wide. Both of these cameras are located inside the real estate of the external AMOLED display. The selfie camera is in the traditional spot atop of the inner display, and it too is a 50 megapixel f2.0 wide sensor. So here's where the wackiness of the Ultra kicks in. Since there's technically 3 zones of displays that can simultaneously be used, there's some fun functionality that is capitalized when the cameras are operating. The external display acts as a say cheese signal, as I guess you could say it's like a Nick Jr. like face, and it winks and sticks its tongue out at subjects to entice them to smile. This has surprisingly been a huge hit with my son, who actually does look right at the camera for some really cute snaps thanks to this face. On the flip side of things, if you prop the phone up in a tent mode, the external display utilizes the main cameras into a selfie setup. Due to the placement of this position, it's framed as a low angle shot, but the subject can see themselves on the display as sort of a viewfinder. The operator can also use hand gestures to take photos without the need to actually touch the display. That's beneficial to the frame as it is already set up for the shot. I can't say I find the photo and video taking capabilities on the Razr Ultra to be good though, but they're at least good enough to get by. They're not terrible, and that's really all the honest praise I have for this setup. In ideal lighting conditions, the phone does fine. Exposure, sharpness, color reproduction, and vibrancy are all quite solid for a flagship phone. The colors are a bit more natural than some competitors on the market, but it leans more towards a yellow-white balance by default. For portrait pics, the detail around the subject's face and body is at the mercy of MotoAI. It can occasionally pop out a great picture, but it usually takes a handful of attempts before it locks one down. In a real world scenario, those fleeting moments will have passed in the moment of time it takes to catch a human subject in their best form. And while the Ultra shoots videos up to 8K at 30 frames per second, once again, its actual execution and results are also mixed. Exposure seems to be the Achilles heel for Motorola, as its sensors seem to have a hard time determining and maintaining what it should be exposing. If you don't manually set things for that frame, the camera will darken and lighten the shot quite often in a short period of time while in that same environment. Small movements will make the Moto reconsider its exposure focus and course correct its image. One positive thing about the Razr Ultra is that it has the biggest battery capacity in this Razr family. With a 4700 mAh battery, the Ultra can handle a full workday without much issue. Without gaming or streaming, the phone can push out about 1.5 days before needing to be plugged in. Ultra charges at a 68-watt speed plugged in through the USB-C port, but it also has a speedy 30-watt wireless charging option that actually does make getting the phone back up and running very easy. And a major contributor to why the Ultra has long-lasting battery longevity is due to the heavy moderated background app killing that Chinese phone makers are known for. While it's beneficial in keeping the phone lasting longer, I find over-aggressive battery managers to be a nuisance. The Razr will take liberties by default with disconnecting Bluetooth peripherals like your smartwatch app, car keys, and other things that need to be running all the time. It takes so much effort to redact all of Motorola's impedance that I thoroughly feel like my phone is actively plotting to make my life as difficult as possible. As someone who has their smartphone as their lifestyle hub in a way, I honestly need it to reliably unlock my cars, my home, and keep me connected with my smartwatch. Out of the box, the Razr Ultra does the complete opposite. I'd much rather smartphone makers let enthusiasts tinker with how much mediation the AI has, instead of starting the experience with it by default and making owners dig deep into setting things and disabling it. Moto AI is a big selling point for the Ultra and basically every other smartphone at this current time period. You're not going to hear me praise AI much, as I find the current crop of smartphone integration to be merely parlor tricks instead of substantial benefits. You got the usual AI generation of stunning images, stickers, and avatars, as Motorola markets Image Studio to do. Transcribing and other text-based applications are also front and center here. None of this transcends the current smartphone experience into something better. To me, AI should be smart. It should handle your business logically and precisely because it's artificial intelligence. Why is my smartphone actively killing my Tesla or Kia app and effectively stranding me outside of my car? Where is all the intelligence in it? Shouldn't AI recognize that my phone is needed to open my car doors? Real beneficial AI would be when the phone kills the app while I'm sitting in my office working and it doesn't need it, and then automatically opens the app in the background without me needing to take out the phone when I am in these positions and I'm approaching my vehicle when I need the app to work. That's what artificial intelligence should be utilized to do and what phone makers really should be pushing towards. Instead, phone makers are pushing us to use it, this AI, to make pregnant photos of LeBron James birthing Steph Curry's child. Until AI is functionally incorporated to keep my smartwatch connected and not to kill it just because it's been on the whole day and running in the background for a long time, I just can't say I recommend AI on smartphones, and the same thing is going on here with the Moto AI. So finally, after all that, let's get to the main reason why you're likely purchasing this phone, the displays. I love the second external display and how it looks. It's a big full square display and it's extremely sharp for what it is. At 4 inches with a full HD resolution of 1272 by 1980p, it's plenty sharp to look at thanks to a dense 417 ppi count. The AMOLED panel has great viewing angles and it's large enough to operate actual apps without it feeling like a joke. Not all applications will work well in this aspect ratio, even though you can force full screen it to fill up the entire real estate. The main bump in the road to the user experience are those dual cameras on the bottom right corner. On some apps, the lenses do cover vital operational buttons or informative information. You can avoid running into this issue by simply making the cameras merge into a black bar, which cuts the real estate by, I'm estimating, like 15% of the screen size. That makes the enjoyment of the external display much less immersive and slightly more difficult to navigate menus and text with the more condensed form factor. While this is one of the largest external displays on a flip phone and the functionality has come a long way from older generations of these types of phones, I personally still don't find my benefit or many benefits that I have from using it in this manner. Anything other than a quick glance at an email or a notification is all I really was able to muster my interest with this external display during daily use after a few months with it. Typing on the QWERTY keyboard here is also doable, but definitely not enjoyable to me at all. When you flip the phone open, the main viewing display is another AMOLED panel that stretches up to 7 inches. It's 1224 by 2912p resolution and slightly sharper pixel density of a 464 ppi count. I think Motorola has done a terrific job of not only producing a solid stainless steel hinge that feels durable and accommodating, but to have that panel that hides the folding crease so well, it just looks really good. When you're viewing it from straight on, the folding crease isn't even really visible to me. You have to really move to an eye level on the base of the display to see the crease stand out. I also didn't really notice the dip in the crease when scrolling with my fingertips. I used to have a weird soothing technique where I would enjoy swiping my finger back and forth across that dip of a flip phone's dividing crease, so I know very well how deep a crease used to be on these types of phones. The Ultra 2025 barely has one, you have to take my word for it. It's almost non existent. And like the external display, the viewing experience on the main screen is quite enjoyable. The panel gets decently bright, and the colors do pop well off the screen to make the luxurious price tag feel justified to an extent. It isn't a phone I would pull out as my go-to for viewing content, but it does do a good enough job for everyday consumption. Unlike a buck folding foldable, a flip phone's display doesn't really provide a boost to that viewing experience. You aren't really getting added viewing space, but what you do get is reduced bulk during transportation, which we'll talk about next. The Motorola Razr Ultra 2025 is made out of a few different kinds of materials. It has a plastic front body, a Corning Gorilla Glass ceramic glass front, a type of eco leather back panel, an aluminum frame, and it's also held together by that stainless steel hinge. When folded, I'd say that it feels like you're holding a deck of playing cards, about that thickness. It fits in with one hand and it pretty comfortably fits in my pant pocket. There's still a bit of a bulk aspect to it that you can't avoid, as it's essentially like stacking two slab phones on top of each other. Maybe the trade off in space saved inside a pocket is worth the bit of thickness the Razr brings with it to some people. I've come to find it manageable, and I do see the appeal now not to have a brick laid out flat across my thigh. That is getting more uncomfortable the bigger phones are. And while I do like the touch and feel on the Razr Ultra, I can't imagine any owner would actually run the phone naked. For such an expensive phone, a dent on the hinge will quickly end the phone's life. I have it cased up, and although I'm enjoying the premium materials that Motorola has given it as an aesthetic identity to the Ultra, you're not really be able to feel it much if it's in a case. It's a bit of a pity because the phone does feel quite lightweight and surprisingly slimmer without that case protecting it. The aluminum frame isn't slippery at all, and the grip is very satisfying to flip and close the smartphone with. A part of me does miss the original design of the Razr when it came back out of retirement. It actually had some resemblance to the classic dumb flip phone that is so iconic to a whole generation of people. By focusing on expanding the functionality of this external display, the Razr Ultra has lost some of its core identity the last couple of years, and I wouldn't fault anyone for confusing with some other flip phone competitors. Still, this is a luxury device that provides a luxury experience that many people still have not yet experienced with this form factor. While flip phones are getting cheaper nowadays, the Moto does have top of the line specs and solid performance to back it up. The unique materials of the build does distinguish it from other flip phones, but that might not be enough to persuade the masses to pick this phone over even other cheaper Motorola flip phone options. While I think Motorola has made a fine flip phone, I do think they need to hunker down next year and really think about what makes a flip phone unique and why people would use one over a regular slab phone that, other than buying it as a status symbol. There needs to be some killer function that I'm just not seeing in an iteration literally littered by useless AI marketing. Once again, I'm Alex from the Sypnotix. Let me know what you guys think of the Razr Ultra 2025. Would you buy this over Samsung's offering this year? And I'll see you guys next time.